Have you ever thought about how a single decision made centuries ago could change everything? Today we're diving into how one explosive council in the 4th century didn't just end a debate, it kicked off a theological revolution that completely redefined what it means to be saved. We're going to trace the ripple effects of this one massive decision.
And that's the real heart of our story. A council was called to solve one specific problem, but the answer they came up with created a brand new one. A question so deep, so profound, it would consume the greatest minds of the era and literally shape Western thought for centuries. So here's how it all went down. In the early 300s, the church is on the verge of splitting apart over something called the Arian controversy. To stop the bleeding, Emperor Constantine calls everyone together for the Council of Nicaea. But here's the twist. The council's solution didn't just end the argument. It set off a chain reaction that led to an entirely new and much more fundamental question. All right, let's start with that initial explosion, the Nicene Revolution. The church was at a breaking point, and the whole fight was about one single thing. Who, or maybe what, exactly was Jesus Christ?
Okay, so you had two camps, and they could not have been further apart. On one side, you got the Arians. They argued that Christ was a created being. Divine, sure, but ultimately made by, and therefore subordinate to, God the Father. But on the other side, the Nicene view insisted, no, Christ is eternally God, completely equal to the Father in every single way.
The council's final answer hinged on a single, incredibly loaded Greek word, homoousios. It means of the same substance. This was the bombshell. The council declared that the Son wasn't just like God, he is God, on the exact same level, made of the exact same stuff as the Father. And with that one word, the debate was settled. Now, this theological earthquake had huge political aftershocks. You have to remember, Christianity was now tangled up with the Roman Empire. So Christ's image starts to absorb these imperial titles. He's called Imperator, Rex Gloria, the King of Glory. It's this wild blending of divine and earthly power like nobody had ever seen before.
But here is the thing. By solving one problem, the Council of Nicaea accidentally opened up a massive new can of worms. Think about it. If Christ was already eternally God, perfect, all-powerful, why on earth would he ever need to become human in the first place?
And just like that became the single most important question driving theology for the next 100 years. Why did God become man? The old answers just didn't cut it anymore. They needed a whole new way of understanding salvation itself. So who were the first thinkers to really step up and tackle this huge new question? Well, that would be Athanasius of Alexandria and Hilary of Poitiers. And they came up with two brilliant and deeply influential answers. Athanasius gave us this stunning, incredibly bold summary that became a cornerstone of Christian thought. Just listen to this. He was made man that we might be made God. I mean, what a radical and beautiful idea about what salvation is really all about. So how does this work? Well, he broke it down into a two-step process. First, you have sarcosis, the incarnation. That's where the divine word, the logos, becomes human flesh. And because that happens, it makes the second step possible, theopoiesis, or divinization. This means that humanity, now united with Christ, can actually share in God's own divine nature. The logic is just revolutionary. God became what we are so that we could become what he is.
So Athanasius focused on sharing in God's nature. Hilary of Poitiers comes at this from a slightly different but really complementary angle. He focused on the idea of sharing in God's glory. For Hilary, the entire story of salvation is really about glorification. See, God is the ultimate source of all glory. The Son is always shared in that glory, and for Hilary, the whole point of the incarnation was to transmit that divine glory to us, to humanity. So for him, being saved means being pulled into the brilliant, glorious life of God himself.
Next up, we have Gregory of Nyssa. And what he does is take these ideas about salvation and just zoom all the way out. He expands the whole concept from just the individual person to the entire cosmos. His vision was truly massive. See, Gregory argued that the incarnation wasn't just about saving individual souls one by one. No, for him, it was about a full-on cosmic restoration, about healing the entire created universe and reunifying it with God, bringing it back to the perfect unity it was meant to have from the very beginning. He saw the whole thing as part of the oikonomia, which is basically God's divine plan or divine economy for all of history. Because Christ enters into solidarity with every single part of human life, birth, living, dying, he redeems all of it. And in doing that, he literally becomes the living pathway for all of creation to find its way back home to God.
Okay, so you've got all these incredible ideas swirling around: divinization, glory, cosmic restoration. And then along comes the heavyweight, the great synthesizer, Augustine of Hippo. He takes all of these different threads and weaves them together into one powerful framework that would basically dominate Western Christianity.
Augustine's key idea for Christ was the mediator. And you have to understand, this concept is only possible because of the decision at Nicaea. Christ can be the perfect bridge, the perfect go-between, connecting the immortal God and mortal humanity, precisely because he is 100% both. He's the only one who can stand with a foot in both worlds and bring them together.
But what did we need to be saved from anyway? Well, Augustine gets out his diagnostic kit and identifies our core sicknesses. It's not just one thing. It's pride, which makes us turn away from God. It's corruption, the decay of our very nature. It's that famous Augustinian restlessness, that inner turmoil and lack of peace. And it's injustice, our broken relationships with God and with each other. So for this pretty complex diagnosis, Augustine offers a divine cure. He gives us this powerful analogy of Christ as the medicus humilis, the humble doctor. This isn't a physician who stands at a distance. No, this divine doctor humbly enters right into our brokenness to heal us from the inside out. And this is just Augustine at his most poetic and brilliant. Using some ideas he got from Neoplatonism, he describes Christ with this incredible paradox. He is the patria, the homeland, the destination we are all trying to get to. But he's also the via, the actual road we have to travel to get there. He's both the goal and the path.
For Augustine, this isn't just a nice idea. The rubber meets the road with Christ's death and resurrection. These events are the very mechanism of our healing. They are the great passage, the transitus, that takes us from a state of injustice and restlessness to a new state of being justified and fully reconciled with God, with ourselves, and with everyone else.
And that brings us to the end. It's amazing, right? From that one question, why did God become man, came this flood of brilliant answers that completely redefined salvation. These ideas, divinization, glorification, mediation, healing, they aren't just ancient history. They literally became the bedrock of Western civilization. So the real question for us is, how do these ancient ideas still echo in our modern world, in our own concepts of healing, justice, and redemption today?